Time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Cook, Will Pelagic, and Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Well, I'm very confident about tomorrow. If I wasn't, I probably shouldn't be sitting up here. So I have confidence in our team. They've come through all year long and, put together good games after they played a game where it doesn't go so well, and they've been real resilient. They seem to bounce back. They seem to, to get over it. It's not like we just lost our puppy. We're okay. We're going to be all right.
Well, I thought today was a flip of last night. We did a better job today of not giving out free passes, and they gave us some, and that was the difference of the ball game. So I think that's why we won. We didn't play our best game defensively, but we overcame it. Guys picked each other up all game, and that's kind of what we've become as a team, and happy with the win, but now we're 100% focused on tomorrow.
And tomorrow has turned into today. Welcome into Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Along with Phil Kornbrook, Professor Tom Hayes, Will Pelagic here with you on this Monday, the 11th day of June, 2018. And we are packed to the gills today. Of course, as you heard in the open, South Carolina and Arkansas, they will be forced to play a decisive Game 3 in about an hour's time from Baum Stadium in Fayetteville. Plenty to react to from that perspective. You'll hear as well from Mark Kingston a little bit more of his comments here later on in this hour. We'll go back out to Derek Ruskin as well, who's covering the series for us in Arkansas and Fayetteville. A big commitment weekend for Clemson and also for South Carolina. Some news off the field for Clemson involving a current player and a viral picture from Facebook, which we'll get into. Dustin Johnson wins at the FedEx St. Jude. We've got a Triple Crown winner. The NBA Finals were a boring bust. But most importantly, Corn, we're still talking about baseball on the 11th of June, and we're talking about a potential 12th trip to Omaha for South Carolina if things break right tonight.
Yeah, I tell you what an amazing story South Carolina is. I'll say this, getting off that subject for a moment, but talking about the regionals. The Mississippi State Vanderbilt series.
Drunk.
If that didn't do something for college baseball and the excitement and raising the interest level in college baseball, except for the fact that all the games were so late at night.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But what a series that was. But now to South Carolina, Arkansas, and here are the Gamecocks facing one of the giants this year in college baseball, and South Carolina team that was left for dead, as we've talked about several times at midseason, and here they are, a win away from Omaha. My goodness, nobody, if you're truthful with yourself, nobody would have admitted that they thought they saw this coming. Not with this team the way it was going at one point, and facing the second half of an SEC schedule that was brutal. Yet they got it going in the second half of the ACC slate, went to the SEC tournament, even though they lost twice, won a game. They were competitive, and then they go and win their regional in Greenville, North Carolina, and they've kept that momentum to some degree going into this super regional now that will wind up tonight at Baum Stadium in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And we'll see what happens. They're going to throw the freshman out there and see if he has still got what he's had the last couple of times out when he's been very, very good.
He's had hard time putting back-to-back outings together. I would say this time and the SEC tournament were the basically first back-to-back outings that he's had that have gone well. Of course, this weekend, South Carolina started out behind the 8 ball. They lose 9-3 after Arkansas gets a big inning in the 7th with a 1-run lead. They are able to get themselves some cushion there and win that game with some insurance. Last night, mirror image of that game, but in favor of South Carolina. South Carolina gets an early lead. They're able to pad their lead with a 5-run fifth. LT Tolbert hits a grand slam, and you know, South Carolina, I think the biggest part, Pro, is that they not only have played this series like they number one belong, but they still have the same kind of belief that they had the last 5 weeks of the regular season and last week in the regional round.
Yeah, and even that opening game, it's sort of misleading because if Arkansas doesn't break it open late, we may be talking about South Carolina already at Omaha, but South Carolina, of course, 8 walks, 2 hit batsmen. The only uncharacteristic thing about this team so far in this series, and it's happened before at Arkansas, I don't know whether it's the turf or whatever, but the defense has opened some leaks, and that has to stop tonight because you give Arkansas any kind of chance, they usually deliver. Yesterday, they almost did try to make a comeback, but South Carolina, that grand slam really gave them the impetus to take that game yesterday.
Carmen Majinski, as we said, starts the Hilton Head native, 3-5, 4.84 ERA on the season. He goes against the right-hander Isaiah Campbell, 4-6 with a 4.17 ERA. We started out the weekend after closing up shop on Friday night, going to bed, and before we went to bed, Corn, we got news that probably didn't shock us, but news that Josh Belk has officially made the switch from orange and white to garnet and black.
Indeed, he did announce that on Friday night. He visited USC Friday, was back again on Saturday to watch their camp session. We'll talk more about him in recruiting coming up a little bit later on, but that's a huge pickup for USC. In all likelihood, he will not be able to play this season, though he said his attorney is looking into a waiver and appeal because of personal circumstances that led him to leave Clemson. Now, the Tigers have not been too concerned about all that. They've gone about their business, and they are recruiting extremely well. They've picked up 2 commitments in the last 2 days, a tight end on Sunday in Davis Allen, and then today, their first offensive lineman commitment, Hunter Rayburn, Pensacola, Florida. More on both of those coming up in recruiting, and a ton of recruiting news tonight from a very busy weekend with visits and camps and commitments. You know, May and June, especially June, becoming the new January in recruiting now as players move as quickly as they can to try to make a decision and lock in a spot at their preferred school. I wonder if people who have grown up following recruiting over all these years and we're so used to all the activity in December and then January being the hot month, I wonder how they've adjusted to it happening here in June, especially with the month of June being what it is, a vacation month. You're kind of away from things. You kind of put the computer down, you put the phone down, and you've got your minds on some relaxation and things with the family. I wonder if they like it here in June, or do they miss the month of January when the excitement would build towards signing day?
I know you're saying this almost from a more personal standpoint.
No, you know what? Actually, it doesn't matter to me. I am happy as a pig in slop when they get these classes filled, and if they get them filled in June and mid-July, and we go into a football season with classes done, you don't have to worry so much about it. That's fine with me.
I wonder too if this will change all of the back and forth, the changing. If maybe these commitments become more solid and we see less of the last minute switching, because you don't want to be in a situation come the month of September where you're having to go and replace a guy because you lost a commitment. It might be some more firmness on these commitments.
I almost have the feeling it goes the other way. It's something about a kid getting excitement. I'm out of school, I'm at the camp, and then suddenly it hits you, hey, this is great here, I'll commit. Then when the new car smell wears off, suddenly they want to take more visits.
It depends on the approach of the school and the head coach. And I'm not saying this is singularly Dabo Swinney and Clemson, but I don't know of any other place where you cannot commit unless you are shutting down your recruiting.
Right.
Clemson will not take your commitment. Dabo Swinney has made that clear. And Clemson's got 14 commitments now. Every one of them has shut down his recruiting after committing to Clemson. There are no decommitments from Clemson's class because they don't allow it. They don't take you unless you are fully committed. You can't take other official visits. If you want to take other official visits, you have to decommit to do so. It's very rare now for Clemson to be in that situation.
It's rare for them to be in that situation. And again, as they've evolved, they've become, as we've said, very choosy with their offers. So if you get an offer from Clemson, it's more than likely because they know they're going to get a commitment out of it.
Yet, you're right, they have reached out in a couple of areas here with some guys with offers that are not all that heavily recruited here of late. For example, they offered an offensive lineman up at Belton Honey a path. It's a gray shirt offer, but an offer nonetheless, not a particularly heavily recruited guy at this point. But, Dabo Swinney and the coaching staff there are like other coaches who are good recruiters, and that is they don't worry about who else is offering a player, and they don't worry about his star status. If they like him, they'll offer him.
More on tonight's Super Regional decisive game from Arkansas next on Sports Talk.
Best Music Compilation.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
We'll take some phone calls this time, Lawrence, 800-956-7266. If you want to get in on the Gamecocks last night, their victory over Arkansas. We'll also be talking later on in the show about a viral picture involving a Clemson wide receiver involving a potential, at least at the beginning of this whole saga with T. Higgins, potential NCAA violation. Clemson's gotten back to us and kind of clarified some things as a result of that. We'll talk about that at the top part of next hour, but kind of a sticky situation if you're involved with Clemson. They're playing the hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil side of that, and we'll get into more of that when we join you here in the second hour here on Sports Talk. We can get a live report out from Arkansas from our Derek Ruskin, who's covering things for us between South Carolina and Arkansas. Looking at some of the other regionals this weekend, Washington advanced late last night. That game was going on in concert between that game as well as the Mississippi State-Vanderbilt game. Mississippi State wins in extra innings over Vanderbilt, winning 10-6. So it'll be Washington versus Mississippi State in a potential game in Omaha. North Carolina advanced, beating Stetson 2-0. Oregon State did the same over Minnesota. So those two will hook up. Texas advanced earlier today, beating Tennessee Tech in the Austin Super Regional. That went to a decisive third game. They would play the winner of this regional between Arkansas and South Carolina. Texas Tech and Duke are still matching up right now, and defending champion Florida Corn has been pushed to the brink by Auburn as well.
Some great baseball going on, and this Duke team is quite a story. Got off to a bad start in this Super Regional and bounced back and won yesterday, and they're scrapping with Texas Tech on the road, and what a story for the Duke baseball season. First Super Regional for them. Auburn, their first ever Super Regional win yesterday. Now you're seeing a South Carolina team coming back from where it was at midseason to be one win away. A lot of great stories around college baseball, not necessarily your top teams. I mean, look who's gone. No Florida State, no Clemson, no Stanford. There's been, I don't know how this number, this must be the year where there have been more visiting teams to win regionals and maybe super regionals than a normal year.
The big story in my mind is Mississippi State. I think because of the fact that you had a coach who got fired the first week of the season. You have Gary Henderson come in basically as an interim guy with experience, but you don't know what you're going to get out of the season. You lose 20-10 in your opening game of the regional round, and now you're going to Omaha. It's an amazing turnaround.
Yeah.
Well, and Duke, I think, is the story because what they've had 5 elimination games, and they've had to come from behind and win 4 of them.
800-956-7266. Jerome in Charleston.
No. He gets a special intro.
His special intro. You want a special intro for Jerome?
He gets his special intro. What we do here, of course, is interrupt what was a good show, and we take it down a couple of notches as we welcome in the bad boy by the bay, the ninja of the night, the pontiff of the port city, the queen of the cowboy crybabies, and the Charlestonian who single-handedly broke Interstate 526
with the Wando Bridge. Is that your fault, Jerome?
It is not Jerome. It is J-Rome.
I'm also the man that's going to marry Danica and quarterback for the Packers.
Get in line.
Going to be
you officiating? You're officiating, J-Ro?
Yeah.
No, he means actually marry, as in physically marry
Yeah,
her.
I'm going to get married. Well, not without the prenup. Anyway, hey, if you have Dave Van Horn's puppy, could you please give him back his puppy? Because he said his players are going to respond tonight. They're not going to act like they lost their puppy. And when did Vanderbilt become Northwestern? When did they adopt the color purple? I thought it was always black and gold.
Yeah.
Where'd
that come from?
That was it's their Sunday uniform. It was not purple. It was like a dark blue. It's supposed to be patriotic because it had the flag on there as part of their deal. It was dark blue. It didn't look well. It didn't look good on the TV. Regardless, with Mississippi State wearing their black unis and Vanderbilt wearing again a dark blue, it didn't blend well on TV, especially with the late night and the bad sight lines there.
Hey, who's picking these colors for these people, man? You know, Mississippi State's black,
Hey,
when they're really maroon.
You know, Jerome,
then
you're smarter than that,
purple.
man. You've got a master's in business, and you know that anytime a team comes out with a new look and a new color, you know what that means? Yeah.
Money.
They're trying to sell some new unis out there to the people.
Anyway, could you please give Dave Van Horn his puppy back, though? Because he said they're not going to act like they lost their puppy.
I'll give him one that looks like the one he lost.
Appreciate the call, J-Rome.
See you, J-Rome. Always good hearing from you.
Let's hear, speaking of Dave Van Horn and Mark Kingston, a little bit from Mark here as last night the Gamecocks victorious 8-5 over Arkansas to force a decisive third game.
Well, I thought today was a flip of last night. We did a better job today of not giving out free passes, and they gave us some, and that was the difference of the ball game. So I think that's why we won. We didn't play our best game defensively, but we overcame it. Guys picked each other up all game, and that's kind of what we've become as a team, and happy with the win, but now we're 100% focused on tomorrow.
Mark, LT leads the team in RBIs. He's gotten big hit after big hit all year long. What is it about him that just allows him to step up in those moments like that?
Well, he's a gamer. He wants to be there. And he thinks he's really good, and he's right. He's got very good hand-eye coordination, and in those big moments, he has the ability to stay calm and just execute what needs to be done. So just think it's a combination of talent, some want to, and poise in those situations.
Coach, you mentioned last night that you weren't worried at all about this team fighting back in this game, but what impressed you most about your team's performance and their attitude in this ball game?
We're just the same team every day. That's what impresses me. You know, they've realized that this is a marathon, and we've had some bumps in the road. But the one thing you can control is, do you come out and just give it everything you got? And I knew that would be the case today. Whether we won or lost today, I knew that would be the case because I know this team. I know the kids on this team. I know that they have bought into maximizing their abilities. So that's why I had no worries coming to today.
Justin today, and I guess how nice was it to see those hits fall pretty early for him?
Yeah, Justin, 2 for 3, 2 runs, 2 RBIs, 2 walks. I mean, it's about as good as it gets. Made a couple unnecessary throws that he'll learn from. But, we won today. He was a big part of that.
You made a couple of changes to your lineup today. What did you see out of Chris at first, and what kind of prompted putting Noah back in there and Chris at first base?
Well, right-handed hitters hit Murphy 60 points better than lefties. So to me, it was trading 2 left-handed bats for 2 right-handed bats. Noah took some good swings today, and Chris took some good swings today. They didn't have much to show for it. But at this point in the season, you just need to play the percentages. You need to give yourself the best chance to win, and every little piece might be the difference. And so, we'll evaluate tomorrow. Do we want to get the lefties back in there? But at the end of the day, we need to try to create as many runs as we can. And then if we take a lead, then we need to have our best defense on the field.
Coach, Justin said that, they're excited for tomorrow's game, but obviously that's not the end goal for you guys. But what does it mean for you to see these guys achieve this point and play this winner-take-all game tomorrow?
Well, I'm excited because once again, and I've said this many times, it gives verification to them that if you do work as hard as you can and you leave it all out there and you make sacrifices, that great things can happen individually and as part of a team. So to me, this just justifies everything we've worked on, that if you do everything you possibly can, great things can happen.
It's Mark Kingston. And again, a lot of people are coming out and saying that this obviously takes care of the honeymoon phase of Mark Kingston. It entrenches him. But I also, in my mind, this is now setting an expectation for Gamecock fans. And as well as I do, Corn, You have 10 guys who got drafted. You have at least 2 signees who you think are probably going to sign. This is going to look like a very different Gamecock team next year. Not to go completely too far away from what we're looking at tonight, but it'll be a hard sell to get this team back to this level next year.
Yeah, and you mentioned signings. One of their top recruits, Blaze Alexander, has signed with the pro team that drafted him.
Diamondbacks,
So that's that I think he might have had some academic questions and may have had to go to junior college anyway, so maybe they weren't counted on him. But yeah, this is if you're going to cash in, if you're Mark Kingston here early in your time at South Carolina, now's the time to do it, because I mean, next year you can still be very good. These incoming players can be good, but they're going to be new. And it may take a little while for everything to mesh. They'll still have some good older players coming back.
And good pitching also.
And some good pitching, but there's going to be a lot of reconstruction going on.
We'll get a scene set from Arkansas. Our Derek Ruskin down there for us at Baum Stadium next on Sports Talk.
Room.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on this Monday evening, the 11th day of June, 2018. Will Pelagic, Phil Kornblut, Professor Tom Hayes here with you. South Carolina on the precipice of reaching the College World Series for the 12th time in its history, the first time since 2012. But they need a victory tonight over Arkansas in the decisive game at Baum Stadium, which is where we head now. Our Derek Ruskin, who is covering the series for us here for Sports Talk and South Carolina Radio Network, is on the line. Derek, it's been an amazing 2 days of baseball. What are your initial impressions from the first two between these two?
Well, I think the pitching has been good for the winning team, and then the losing team has just been pretty lousy. I mean, South Carolina had a lot of walks in game one, and Arkansas ended up winning. And then Arkansas had 10 walks yesterday, and South Carolina gets the big grand slam and wins there. So the pitching is going to be really interesting tonight when it's basically it's all hands on deck. Everybody, you go till you can't go anymore, and then we'll bring the next guy in. The Johnny Holstaff is the approach tonight for both sides, with everything on the line tonight. So that's another thing that stuck out to me. And there's been, kind of some sloppy defense at times as well. So the games, the first 4, 5, 6 innings on Saturday were terrific. And since then it's been, kind of sloppy to watch, honestly. But here we are, 1-1, and one game decides it all tonight.
It seems that both of these games have been mirror images of each other, just from the standpoint of the way they've gone for each team. Do you expect either of these teams to be tight tonight?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, the pressure of this moment getting to, even though these are two programs that are, they know what the deal is with going to the College World Series and going to Omaha. They've been there before as programs. You know that when you're recruited here, that's the expectation. But still, when it gets real and you're on that field and it's on the line, it's got to tighten you up a little bit. So yeah, I think there'll be some pressure tonight. I hope we have a cleaner game in terms of defense and pitching tonight than we've had the last two nights. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that does affect who's able to settle in first and just kind of play baseball and not think about all of the ramifications for this game tonight.
Derek Ruskin with us from Fayetteville, Arkansas, 7 o'clock, first pitch tonight, USC and Arkansas. So, Derek, what about the Razorback pitcher that the Gamecocks will see tonight? Looking at his numbers, Isaiah Campbell, right-hander, not overly impressive. Is he a better pitcher than what we see from his numbers?
It's really an interesting thing we all have to kind of see together tonight, because last week he started the third game in the regional, and they took him out after 3 hitters. He just, for whatever reason, Dave said afterwards that Dave Van Horn, Arkansas coach, said that he could see it was about to get ugly quickly, so he got him out of there after just 3 batters. They ended up winning that game against Dallas Baptist, but it'll be that's what everybody's kind of wondering is, what will he do tonight after that last performance? Will he really be able to totally block that out of his mind and move on? Is this a struggle that he'll have again tonight? It's really it's kind of the $1 billion question here right now, is what are you going to get from Isaiah Campbell tonight if you're Arkansas?
Yeah, I was about to ask that question, because it seems to me when Arkansas goes to the bullpen, it's sort of an adventure. You don't know whether you're going to get the fire extinguisher or the gasoline. So as far as the leash is concerned on Campbell, you would think it'll be a little bit longer, wouldn't you? Especially in tonight's game.
Yeah, I mean that's again, it's really going to be 3 batters. So, I mean, if he struggles, does he get 5 or 6? Does he get an inning? Well, what's going to be here? I mean, it's really the approach that Dave Van Horn has always had, and I'm sure Coach Kingston will be the same way tonight, is just go till you can't go, and then we'll just bring the next guy in. Nobody has to. I mean, it'd be great if someone had threw 6 or 7 tonight for either side, but nobody has to do that tonight, because just about everybody's going to be available, with a couple of exceptions for both teams.
Derek Ruskin joining us here, covering the Super Regionals for us in Fayetteville here on Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. I know that you don't see the Gamecocks on a regular basis. What has impressed you about this ball club that you're seeing, at least up close and personal?
Well, I mean, Tolbert yesterday with the grand slam. I mean, that ball was at his ankles, and he was able to get it up and let the wind help it enough to get out of the ballpark yesterday. I mean, Tolbert and Cortez have been impressive. I liked what I've seen from Taylor behind the plate, although Arkansas had a little bit of success running on him yesterday. The defense got kind of sloppy for South Carolina there, but I mean, it's only fitting that these two great teams have one game to kind of decide everything. To see who will be another SEC team going to the College World Series to join Mississippi State and either Florida or Auburn later on.
If you would, Derek, kind of set the scene for us in terms of the weather conditions, what the wind is doing, if either team sets up better for that, and also, you know, the buzz around the ballpark this afternoon, the buzz around Fayetteville for this game. What's it been like?
Well, every game, people have been lined up for the general admission seating along Razorback Road hours before the game to get their best spot there out in left field. A little bit breezy, but usually here when the sun goes down, the breeze dies down as well, and it just gets hot and sticky here. And that's probably what's going to be in play. There is a small chance that a storm could pop up, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen tonight. So, but early on, and then another thing too, guys, that I'm interested in early on in the game is when you have the shadows over home plate and the mound is in the sun. Just kind of how that factors in early on in the game with the hitters being able to pick up. And again, of course, Arkansas is facing a pitcher that they haven't seen before from South Carolina. So that's going to be an interesting thing early on to kind of see in the first 3 innings or so of how that all plays out.
Yeah, it was weird. You know, they were showing a lot of that. I think in left field too, the sun has been particularly bad as well. And you mentioned the defense. Is there something about that track there that makes it hard to pick up the balls there?
You know, I don't know. You know, it's just been one of those years where it's just not been just as automatic as it's been in the past. It seems like, you know, it's one of those deals where it's like in football where you've got 3 phases and, you know, sometimes you just don't get all 3 phases locked in. You can have pitching and hitting and defense, and, you know, if 2 of the 3, you'll be really good. And, you know, it's just been one of those things. The deal with Kerstad is he dropped one in the Dallas Baptist game like that last Sunday in the regional, and then he did it again the other night. It was really strange. So everybody kind of in Cardinal and red holds their breath when the ball goes out the left field. But, you know, it's a freshman playing on the biggest stage. I mean, it's just it's stuff that happens. You know, it's baseball.
Eric Ruskin, enjoy the game tonight. We'll check back with you in our second hour just to kind of see where things are. Appreciate the time.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
We have a poll question up about the game tonight, Phil.
Indeed, we do. So if you want to jump on our Twitter timeline, the poll question is your confidence level for a USC win tonight over Arkansas. And 75%, 38% are 50-50. All right, get off the fence, will you? Make a call. 38% are 50-50. 26% are at 25% confidence level. 23% are at 75%. And 13% of the voters, they are at 100% that the Gamecocks will win tonight. You got about 18 minutes left. We timed this to end around first pitch. So it's on our timeline if you want to jump in there. So right now, most people think it could go either way.
And the people who are 100% sure that they're going to Omaha are the 13% that jumped off the bandwagon when they lost to Presbyterian.
I think they're going to win, guys. I think they're going to win.
Based on?
I have a feeling. I have an inner feeling.
Is that a want to or you think?
I think they're going to win.
Okay.
I think they're going to win, and I think the hero will be Matt Williams.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it all figured out.
Matt Williams will have a big hit late for them to win.
I will go with my,
mark the tape.
Mark the tape. My first prediction on Friday is I thought it would go 3 games, but I thought Arkansas would win only because they're the home team.
History. I think Arkansas wins tonight as well. Home field pushing you. We've been in these situations before at Super Regionals, and that lift you get from the home crowd. We forgot to ask them who the home team's going to be. Do we know?
It's Arkansas.
That's not good. They get the last at bat.
Recruiting next. Big recruiting weekend for Clemson in South Carolina.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
It's about 20 minutes till first pitch in Arkansas. South Carolina facing the Razorbacks. Winner goes to Omaha. The Gamecock lineup looks like this. Danny Blair back in the lineup after a day off. They brought more offense into the picture, but they're going back with more defense today. Blair leading it off today, playing center field. Carlos Cortez in left field hitting second. Madison Stokes, DH, is hitting third. Jonah Broad playing third base in the cleanup position. Justin Rowe at second, batting fifth. The shortstop is LT Tolbert, yesterday's hero, with the grand slam, hitting sixth. Hunter Taylor behind the plate hitting seventh. Jacob Olsen in right batting eighth. The first baseman is Matt Williams hitting ninth. Majinski on the mound. And, of course, the Gamecocks are facing Isaiah Campbell of Arkansas. The game will start on ESPNU because the Texas Tech Duke game is going long. So it'll start on ESPNU and go to the deuce after the Duke-Texas Tech game finishes. Big recruiting weekend. We start, of course, Corn, with the first comments from Josh Belk.
Josh Belk, the defensive lineman who is transferring from Clemson to USC, he tweeted that on Friday night that will be his plan. And we talked to him last night, the first time he has spoken on the record about the decision since it was made public. And he said that South Carolina was just the best fit. He said there was no reason to keep on dragging it on. He talked to the family, and that was the best fit. So he just wanted that to be known. And he said, hanging with the guys, he formed a relationship with them as new teammates. The location, he said, only an hour from home. The coaches there, he said, when he committed to Clemson over them, originally they wished him well. It wasn't like they were talking him down or anything like that and said, you messed up. They wished him well. So when he decided to transfer, the relationship picked back up where it was left off. So big pickup there for South Carolina. He said they love his size and his speed and the fact that they can move him around along the defensive line and play him at different spots. Right now, of course, he is set to sit out this year, leaving him 4 years to play for. However, there is a plan to ask the NCAA for a hardship waiver, he said, and he certainly is hoping for that. Otherwise, it'll be a year off for him. He did have some nice things to say about Dabo Swinney. He said this whole thing made him a more mature person. It was a big step, he said, to go in front of Swinney and talk to him face-to-face about a situation as big as that, a life-changing decision. He said, I respect him 100%, him and his staff 100%, hands down to them. He made it happen to where I could open back up to any school that I wanted to. Normally that doesn't happen. I respected him, and he respected me. He looked out for me on that one. He's all the things they put out about him. He's a man of his word, and he's a player's coach. He looked out for me. That was from Josh Belk. Now, that being said, Tigers themselves have had a couple of good days. Yesterday, tight end out of Calhoun, Georgia, Davis Allen, 6'5", 220, the second tight end taken in this class for Clemson, giving the Tigers at the time 13 in their 2019 class. And he had visited Clemson for a camp and said it was just the right fit for him and his family. Loves the coaches, down-to-earth type of guys. And he said the Tigers have been recruiting him for several months, that Brandon Streeter and Jeff Scott both scouted him in the spring. Decision came down to Clemson and Vanderbilt. Other offers were Duke, Minnesota, Ole Miss, South Florida, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. He's a versatile tight end. He can play attached. He can play split out. He can be used as a blocking tight end. His dad played at Georgia.
Oh.
Now today, offensive lineman Hunter Rayburn, 6'4", 310, Pensacola, Florida, committed to Clemson. The first offensive lineman for the class. He committed after visiting Texas A&M with his teammate, offensive lineman Adrian Medley, over the weekend. Medley committed to the Aggies. The two of them had talked about going to the same place, but Rayburn said Clemson was just too strong of a field for him over Texas A&M and others. He talked with his family last night and decided that was the place for him. Clemson likes him as a center or guard, but he can swing out and play tackle if necessary. USC had offered him, Duke, Stanford, Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, and others on his offer lists. According to his coach, quarterback Brendan Clark, Midlothian, Virginia, decommitted from Wake Forest. He visited Clemson over the weekend. He'll visit Notre Dame and Tennessee plans his next commitment for July 4th. Running back Aaron Beasley, Franklin, Georgia, USC offer among his offers. He committed to Tennessee. Defensive lineman Lloyd Murray, Wichita Falls, Texas, plans to visit Clemson Wednesday. He's a national recruit, offers from all over. Dutch Fork receiver Jalen Hyatt was offered by Virginia Tech Sunday. He was at USC camp last week, and he caught the Gamecocks' attention with some blistering speed. He's going to Clemson this week, I think Wednesday. He also has a Duke offer. USC target offensive lineman Anthony Wiggin, Lackawanna Junior College in PA, was offered by Arkansas Sunday. Over the weekend, he took an official to Louisville. He's been official to USC, and the Gamecocks talked to him, he said, on a weekly basis. They remain very much a factor with him. No decision is imminent. Clemson in the top 6 with offensive lineman Trevor Keegan, Crystal Lake, Illinois, with Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, and Alabama. USC offered 2020 running back Lammy Constant. Can't tell my own typing. Lammy Constant of Brooklyn, New York. And the Gamecocks also offered 2021 running back Dylan Betts-Pauley of Hoover, Alabama. 2020 defensive end Darian Henry of Cincinnati was offered by Clemson. He was there on Saturday. Clemson also offered 2020 linebacker Justin Flo of Upland, California. 2020 quarterback Luke Doty of Myrtle Beach was offered by Florida State. He camped at USC last week. He'll be at Clemson this week. Defensive end Dante Walker, Riverdale, Georgia, was at USC Saturday. Did not work out at the camp. He did talk with the coaches. He has to improve on his academics before he can move forward, something he said he can do. Defensive back Andrew Booth, Lawrenceville, Georgia, was at Clemson Saturday. He also visited in January for a junior day and for the spring game. Linebacker Greg Williams of Swansea was at Virginia Tech yesterday. He was offered by Clemson in camp earlier this week. He said USC is not showing him any interest thus far. UCF, Western Kentucky, East Carolina, Coastal Carolina, and Missouri also on his list of offers. 2020 tight end Tayshawn Brooks of Dutch Fork camped at and visited Kentucky, and he'll find out this week if he's going to get an offer from the Wildcats. He was at Wofford yesterday, and he'll camp at USC on Friday. Dorman receiver Jacoby Pinckney named his Final Four: Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, and Virginia Tech. This is a very strange scenario for an in-state player of his repute, not getting any interest from USC and Clemson with the Final Four of Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, and Virginia Tech.
There's been a couple of guys like that.
Defensive back Jalen Mahoney of South Point committed to Wake Forest, and I'm very disappointed to have to.
This one sucks.
This breaks my heart. Defensive back Storm Duck of Boiling Springs is leaving us. He committed to North Carolina. So the chance to have him on a USC or Clemson roster and all the fun you can have with the name Storm Duck
we can say
will evade us.
He's not going to Oregon.
Not going to Oregon. Does not have a mom named Daffy, as far as we know.
So so basically the Tar Heel fans are going to ride the storm out.
Yes, they will ride the storm out.
Little REO Speedwagon for you there.
Well, here's a strange.
Very little.
Here's a strange. Here's a strange tweet in my mind, maybe, from Sports Illustrated, Jimmy Woo. I'm told the South Carolinas, and do you still call them South Carolinas? I'm told that South Carolina's Brian Bowen will withdraw his name from the 2018 NBA draft, still yet is to hire an agent, could pursue G League route.
What? That's interesting.
Isn't it too late to do that?
Now, I think this is the ultimate, the last day. If you're not an amateur, that you can still pull out of it.
Why would you pull out? I mean, it doesn't make any difference.
I don't know.
As far as I know, it doesn't make any difference.
We'll have to check that out a little bit. Also, we have some updated information on the viral photo from the weekend with Clemson wide receiver T. Higgins, some clarification on the Clemson side. And also, we have our first comments from the dealership that hosted him for a test drive of a car that basically looked a little shady that he was involved in. We will continue to monitor that story. And, of course, we'll give you as many live updates as warrant from Arkansas.
A new bowl game coming our way.
Possibly as well, involving the city of Myrtle Beach when we come back.
2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Welcome in, Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. They're underway at Baum Stadium in Arkansas. South Carolina and Arkansas winner heads to Omaha and the College World Series.
I predict, with my deep knowledge of baseball, a Danny Blair ground out to open the game.
Yeah? Is that what you think is going to happen?
I think that's going to happen.
Okay. We're about a pitch behind off of the actual game tracker here.
We're more than a pitch. We're more than a pitch.
We will keep you updated as much as we can here. Derek is going to join us. Derek Ruskin, our on-site correspondent, will join us at the bottom of the hour for an update as it warrants. And again, we'll keep you updated as much as we can on the goings-on at Baum Stadium in Arkansas. This was a weird story over the weekend. It involves a local wide receiver, Clemson wide receiver T. Higgins. Basically, True Auto Mart posted a picture of Higgins, what looks to be a salesperson, and a very expensive-looking McLaren car. This is the kind of car that the salaries of Korn, myself, and Pro wouldn't even be able to buy, and that's not an insult to what we are paid here. It's more of a question about how much that car is.
You've never seen my check, so I would say speak for yourself.
I'm just telling you that car costs in the greater 200,000.
Am I shaking over that?
I'm just
saying.
saying.
You see me being nervous over the idea of spending that kind of money for a car?
It's a very expensive car, and I don't think New Spring was going to pay for it either. Fact of the matter is,
I could buy the car, but I couldn't afford the gas.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
So basically, the post from True Auto Mart says, a big thanks to the #1 ranked college wide receiver, T. Higgins from Clemson, for coming to True Auto Mart today to purchase a vehicle. The word is getting out that True Auto Mart is the place to come buy a vehicle without the fees. That is a big no-no from the NCAA's perspective, because you can't use your name or likeness to promote a product on any particular media, whether it's social or otherwise.
At this time.
At least the way that the rules and regulations read as of now. So, of course, that made some very viral news across the weekend. His mother came out and had a very, I'll call it belligerent response, saying, you guys are a bunch of, word I can't say on the air, leave my son alone. He did not purchase a car. He doesn't even have a job, and there's no way in hell I could ever afford it. I still rent my house. That's not even his dream car. And a lot of other expletives alongside. We've gotten clarification from the folks at Clemson. What did they tell you, Korn?
Yeah, when this came out, of course, it popped up on our timeline, all right? This wasn't something that we were seeking. It popped up on our timeline on Friday night, I think it was, and I saw the picture and read the script and all that, and I said, yeah, this doesn't look good. So on Friday night, I sent a text message to Joe Galbraith, who head of Clemson Communications for athletics. He had just come back from vacation.
That's a terrible thing to come back from.
Yeah,
vacation
really. And
on.
I mean, I think we were the first one to hit him up with it, I think. And of course, it took the weekend for him to get relocated. And then, of course, today, first work day back in the week, and took a little while for him to get this sorted out through Clemson compliance and all that. But Joe got back to us, and he said that the following quote: "We sent a cease and desist to the dealership, and they took down the post. He did not buy any car there from that dealership. His eligibility is not going to be impacted at all. The picture was used without his knowledge or permission, and so the dealership took it down, and that was that."
Scott Kiefer has looked into this from the dealership standpoint and has some comments from the dealership. This is from the gentleman's name is, beg your pardon, Tim Thompson. He's the owner and president of the dealership. It's a dealership in Piedmont. He said, "Our plan was not to create a negative. As a business, you want to let social media work for you. We thought this was a good place for publicity. Instead, it turned into a failed publicity stunt. I certainly did not want to get the man in trouble. It was something innocent that went crazy. T didn't mind it, and he knows our heart was in the right place. If I had any indication this would happen, we would have never done it. I've got people sending me expletives and all sort of stuff. People are brutal. We are really good guys." He said he's, quote, "not a big of a sports fan." He said he gave Higgins a ride in the sports car and also had him test drive a Dodge Charger, but again, confirmed that Higgins did not purchase a vehicle. I have some questions. Number one, if you are a business and you know, again, I know this man says he's not that big of a sports fan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, though, that there are rules and regulations that govern college athletics. They govern everything, whether or not you can, you used to be able not to put cream cheese on bagels for recruits when they were coming on an official visit. Like that stuff as minutia driven as that. Why in the world did you think it was okay to post a picture of a collegiate athlete endorsing that you're buying a car when, number one, he didn't even buy the car, and number two, the car is probably more than it would cost someone's tuition at Clemson?
Well, number one, I don't know the owner of the dealership. I will take him at his word that he doesn't know sports. You can't
obviously not.
You can't assume that anybody in the business world who's not a big sports fan, maybe not a big college sports fan, knows the ins and outs of the NCAA rule book. However,
common sense, though.
T. Higgins should know better.
He should.
He's a second-year player. He was a heavily recruited player. The rules have been lectured to him and his teammates over and over again. He had to know, taking a picture, even if he did not give his permission for its use, taking a picture in front of an expensive car, the chances of that ending up on social media somewhere were pretty high. And as such, you're putting yourself at risk, or at least you're embarrassing yourself and your school for a couple of days as this makes its way through the media rounds.
It's just bad optics.
So he should have just known. He should have just known. Every athlete, every major college football, basketball, baseball player, and on, they know you can't put your image out there in that manner without having a risk of repercussions.
If you're an athlete, read the definition of what a monk is and what a monk does. That's what you are, believe it or not. You got to be a monk.
A hermit, basically. You have to hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And if I was a college athlete, again, I'm not professing to have ever come close to that, but with the way the rules are and how many ways you could break the rules as a college athlete, it would literally be dorm room, class, practice facility, training table, home. Like that would be my triangle. And yes, I'd probably spend more time at the training table because, I like to eat.
But you know what? Let this be an example. Now, right now, it's illegal. Let's say that the NCAA legalizes.
See, I have no problem with that.
Letting athletes use their image and use their presence to help sell products. I mean, while legal, you're going to see these kids popping up all over the place, and perhaps that becoming a dominant point of their time in college, where they're spending more time selling themselves out for advertisement versus studying, being in class, working on their particular sport. I mean, it becomes another thing to divide their attention away from what they should be focused on, the chase for money while in college like that. I'm not in favor of allowing the players to sell their image from the standpoint of advertising, of going out and being used as advertising subjects. I just think that that's going to create a whole world of issues and problems for most concerned.
It depends on what period it's in. If you're in this period, I don't see any problems with it.
Yeah, I have no problem with them actually being able to use their name and likeness under predetermined rules and auspices. I mean, it would have to be highly regulated.
See, every rule that you make in this kind of situation is just going to be broken. They're going to find a way. If you try to put regulations on it, they'll find a way.
But I think about it the same way people talk about gambling. It's not like it's not already happening. There are situations all across the country where this happens. It doesn't happen very openly, but I can tell you right now, it happens.
The using of your image?
No, I'm saying impermissible benefits. It happens.
Oh, yeah.
Is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So from that standpoint, if you can find a way to regulate it so that the money doesn't necessarily come from the school, it comes from either a registered donor or a registered booster. We could talk more about just the way this all happens, and we come back. We'll also talk about the Josh Belk commitment and what it means for South Carolina as we continue on Sports Talk.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Sports Talk is brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Receive double CU rewards points on lodging, travel, and dining purchases from May 15th through July 31st when you use your Founders Visa Signature or Platinum Visa credit card. Visit foundersfcu.com/visa for full details. Still no score in Arkansas. They're in the first. Right now, Texas Tech has taken a 5-2 lead on Duke in the bottom of the eighth. If you're looking for the South Carolina-Arkansas game, it is on ESPNU until that Texas Tech-Duke game ends, and then we'll switch over to ESPN2.
Yeah, let's tell you what the Gamecocks did in their half of the first inning. Pretty quiet. Blair grounded out to short. Cortez walked. Stokes flied out to right, and Bride struck out looking, so they stranded one in their half of the first. And now Arkansas has got something brewing in their half of the first inning. They have first and second with nobody out.
We go back to a story that we talked about earlier, Blaze Alexander's signing. Jim Callis has now come up with the financials, the 11th round pick signing with Arizona for a $500,000 signing bonus.
Is that over slot?
Basically $125,000 over his slot.
Mm-hmm.
His slot was around $375. He gets $500K from Arizona, and he will leave. Well, not leave. He will forego college and enter the professional realm. And
just to add to that, and I mentioned it earlier, but John Whittle of the Big Spur wrote that he wasn't going to make it into South Carolina anyway, and they were trying to keep that. Not Whittle or people around the kid were trying to keep that on the down low to keep the threat of going to college in play from a negotiation standpoint.
Leverage, yeah. There's so much of talk about, losing your leverage and whether or not you have leverage or not when it comes to signing. That's what a lot of the juniors talk about when they're basically making the decision whether to stay or go, because you lose your leverage if you come back for your senior year because you know that you have to sign basically for a particular amount. He also did in his report, did John talk about the fact that the Gamecocks did go a junior college route to get a middle infielder, a guy who played at Notre Dame, Nick Neville, because of the fact that not only would they lose Blaze Alexander, but they also would likely lose LT Tolbert if he ends up foregoing his final season.
It's just too bad to lose a baseball player with the first name Blaze. That would have really sounded good.
He went out in a blaze of glory.
The Gamecocks.
Speaking of going out in a blaze of glory, Brian Bowen, this was news that Pro brought to our attention, first reported by SI's Jeremy Wu, but an additional source has confirmed to the state newspaper and Andrew Ramsbacher that indeed Brian Bowen is withdrawing his name from the 2018 NBA draft. He's yet to hire an agent. Basically, these are his options. He could pursue a G League free agent deal outside of the draft, or possibly play overseas and try and get himself into the 2019 draft. But the reasoning behind this is that I guess he felt that he wasn't going to get drafted, so why go through the process and machinations of actually going through the draft process and possibly getting himself a potential free agent offer. The issue, of course, here is, though, after that whole situation where he basically declared for the NBA draft, he is not able to return to South Carolina. So if you had your hopes on that particular news benefiting the Gamecocks in any way, it does not at any point. So
yeah, that's just a bad deal for college basketball. You had one player help get one school on probation and a Hall of Fame coach fired. Maybe not him directly, but his family members. And then he comes to South Carolina, of course, and gets a half year of a free education while getting the Gamecocks' hopes up, only to have those hopes snubbed by the NCAA's dragging its feet for the longest time, and then, of course, coming forward somewhat reluctantly and saying that he would not be eligible at all for this coming season and forcing his hand to stay in the draft. So just not a good situation at all for a couple of programs and for college basketball.
And of course, I think the only silver lining for Brian Bowen is the NBA, especially. I think it started with the San Antonio Spurs, where they develop players, and even if it's through the G League or have them sit on the end of the bench, more teams are looking to do that. So I could see somebody like San Antonio taking a shot on this guy.
The Gamecocks have themselves behind the 8 ball early. A throwing error by Jonah Bride at third base advances Heston Kerstad on base and forces in an unearned run. The leadoff batter for Arkansas, Eric Cole, comes in to score, and the Razorbacks with a 1-0 lead, and they still have runners at the corners with nobody out. You made the juxtaposition earlier, Corn, that Carmen Majinski, ironically, was the starter for South Carolina in one of the games that basically forced the big turnaround.
Yeah, he was a starter in the Presbyterian game,
which we've talked about,
which they lost. Yeah, kind of their lowest point of the season. He gave up, 4 runs in that game,
4 runs in 5 innings, yeah.
4 runs. And, of course, he bounced back from there as the year progressed and got better and better. This particular play here that just cost the Gamecocks, Bride, who's been a fabulous fielder for them all season long, he double clutched. He was going to go to second base to try to get the force and looked to second, and he must have thought he couldn't make the play there, and he threw wildly to first base. Uncharacteristically, now this is a team that has been fielding over 980.
One of the top 5 fielding percentages in all of college baseball.
And they had kind of a little league play take them apart yesterday, and now an error here early in this one. And Arkansas has now played it another run to go up 2-0. And won't be long before Mark Kingston will be going to the bullpen.
Well, he's already put 3 guys already down to the bullpen. Demurius, Coyne, and Lawson all ran down to the bullpen after Skylar Mead's last visit to the mound before this 2-0 lead happens for Arkansas. So, as they said before, it's all hands on deck. But you wonder how short the leash is on Majinski, because this thing can get away from you in a hurry. We were criticizing last week in the regional round Monty Lee for having a vaudevillian hook. That might be necessary today.
No
Mark
question.
Kingston.
Yeah, they got to keep this damage to a minimum here as best as possible. Now, you don't know what the Arkansas pitcher is going to do.
Right.
Again, his numbers indicate that he's not had a great year, and maybe South Carolina offensively can break through, but I'm not sure. Well, I mean, I think if it becomes a slugfest, I think South Carolina could hold its own in an offensive slugfest if they can make it that way. They may have to get back in this thing because they're trailing now 2-0, and the Hogs have runners on the corners and
still nobody else.
Yeah, and the key point is Majinski being a young pitcher in a moment like this. Sometimes pitchers psychologically are going to a funk because the defense has gotten leaky on them behind them, and some pitchers can't deal with that early.
Can I make a suggestion to Ray Tanner?
What's that?
And Founders Park.
What's that?
After being at East Carolina and looking at some of these regionals, the scoreboards that I have seen at these parks have all gone more to a computerized look, more digital look.
Yeah, the ribbon board, basically.
Yeah, I guess that's what you'd call it. I like, it's like the digital look thing, and and I like it. The Carolina scoreboard has been there from the beginning. It's got some nice pieces to it. I like the clock on top and all that, but I think they should upgrade to that digital, that more high-tech digital look. One thing I don't like about the scoreboard at Founders Park is that it's hard to read at night the innings.
Right.
What inning it's in. I mean, you can count the innings yourself, but to see the numbers, because they are lit in red, they get, they're kind of blurry, I think, even with glasses on.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying maybe they should invest a little money and go to a more high-tech scoreboard.
Those of us with wider palette eyes see just fine.
They'll do that.
Yeah, 20/20 vision.
2021.
Of course he does.
They'll do that after they get
photographic memory.
Victory Tower.
2021 vision. Is there anything else that you want to tell us about that is supernatural?
The supernatural dad bod also as well.
What?
The dad bod. The pelagic pouch, as you like to call it.
Yes.
No, once they get the Victory Tower up, then they'll put the new scoreboard in.
Well, they kind of got that now. They light up Capstone when something good happens. Now that's a pretty good thing to do. I like that. Light up Capstone. If the Gamecocks win tonight, I bet you Capstone will be glowing garnet later on tonight.
They have gotten the first down of the inning. Majinski with a high hard fastball to strike out Fletcher of Arkansas, but the Razorbacks still lead 2-0. We'll get an update from Derek Ruskin here at the bottom of the hour just to give us a little bit more into what has been ailing Majinski and the Gamecocks, but they find themselves behind We'll also talk a little bit about what's going on with Josh Belk and also hear from Dustin Johnson after his victory at the FedEx St. Jude and, of course, in advance of Shinnecock Hills in the U.S. Open. More sports talk coming your way. So I'm not going to be able to go out to my car now because I think I just jinxed the Gamecocks by saying they were going to win. It's my fault. It's all my fault, guys. It's okay.
Yeah, it was the first inning.
It's the first inning, but it doesn't look good to start. Let's go out to Baum Stadium where Arkansas has put the paint on South Carolina in the opening inning. Derek Ruskin is there for us. What's going on, Derek?
Well, the first inning just ended, and Arkansas batted around. It's 5-0 after an inning of play here, and The big blow was by Carson Shaddy, who is a local guy from Fayetteville who has just had an incredible NCAA tournament. He's got 14 RBIs in both the regional and now the super regional for the Razorbacks. He was just hammered a ball that I didn't really see, but I heard the home run. It was an impressive shot by Shaddy, and it's a 5-0 Arkansas.
Did we cause you to miss that big blow?
No. I saw that.
Okay.
How we were talking earlier about the sidelines. Do you think that that might have played a role in the miscue there with Bride there at third base?
That's interesting because he kind of hesitated there. I'm not quite sure. Well, the play was made by Casey Martin, the base runner, who was not running on the play, but somehow got to second base. I mean, really, really fast. I mean, he was there. When he looked up to make the throw, the guy was already there. So it kind of disrupted the timing on the play there for South Carolina and caused the miscue. So, yeah, early on we've seen South Carolina with the miscues in this one. So
they get through the first. Majinski finally gets him out. He throws 34 pitches in the inning. The bullpen was getting warmed up. From your vantage point, are they warming up with the sort of intensity as if somebody's going to be coming in here in the second inning?
When I was in the ballpark a little while ago, they really weren't. They ran out there and just kind of got loose, but they weren't. There was no one throwing as if they were immedately heading into the ball game. I wonder if we'll see that here in the next little bit or so. But I was kind of surprised, honestly, that he got to finish off that entire inning there. But Coach Kingston kept him in there.
Well, when you look at the record, I guess it's kind of crazy for me to ask this question, but Arkansas gets an early lead in the first inning. They usually, even if they have to hang on, they usually win it, don't they?
Yeah, but game 3 in a super regional, it's all bets are off. I mean, anything can happen. There's so much game to be played here, and 5 runs it is really not that much. So if South Carolina chips away, Arkansas's got to keep scoring, and South Carolina just has to get as much as they can at a time. They don't need a 6-run inning to get back in this thing. They've got a lot of time to catch up.
All right, Derek, one last thing. We'll let you go. Campbell went through the first inning, 19 pitches. He did walk 1, but did not allow a hit. So if he were to struggle at some point here in the next couple of innings, what's the from your perspective, where will they go first in the bullpen? Who do you think will be first out of the Arkansas pen to replace him if need be?
Well, last week it was Jake Reindl, but he pitched in game 1. Don't know if he would have enough to go a certain length of time if they want to save him for maybe just an inning. What the plan would be there? But he was the guy they went to last week. It's going to be interesting to see if it goes that way. Which for both sides, who gets in there, because there's always unlikely heroes in games like this, and it could happen for either side.
Derek's updates on our Twitter at SportsTalkSC.com. Thanks so much, Derek.
Thanks, guys.
And Derek Ruskin here with us on Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Yeah, we've got the Presbyterian Majinski.
Yeah,
not saying
this
that
is not what the Gamecocks needed.
It's the Presbyterian Majinski, not the kosher
Majinski, because Arkansas ain't Presbyterian. That's
no
bats,
bats and Baptists,
yeah,
if you will. Yeah, this is 5 runs. It's a lot, but at the same time, it's a do or die mentality, and we've seen so much of these crooked numbers be put on by both teams. So you're not out of a game after 5 runs, but the thing that it would concern me from South Carolina's perspective is having to go to the bullpen early. I don't know if they have enough depth beyond guys like Demurius, Bridges, and Lawson. If you have to go into guys like Parker Coyne, or if you have to go back to Gilreath, I mean, I don't know if there's enough behind the principal guys for them to be able to go stride for stride with Arkansas.
Well, Bridges is out tonight. He can't pitch.
Yeah.
I think Adam Hill could pitch if necessary. My guess is, depending on the situation and what they're thinking in the bullpen, I don't know if they'll go situational or just somebody new. My guess is Adam Hill would be the next one in, because
Chapman also you have to think of as well.
Chapman as well.
Either Chapman
and Demurius, of course, can give you some innings as well. The thing here now is if they can retaliate here in this inning and get something on the board to kind of cut into this thing. South Carolina's been in this situation before, and we've seen them chip away and get back into ball games and pull some things out. But this is a heavy task to try and accomplish here in this particular setting. With, I'm sure the crowd was in an uproar in that inning when that home run especially left the ballpark.
That's when I was thinking about it. When I was thinking about, especially looking at college pitchers, unlike major league pitchers, college pitchers, in my mind, some when they get into a predicament like Majewski was in, they tend to give in. They'll serve one right across the middle of the plate. Never do that. Even if you walk a guy or give away a base hit, they'll serve one right across the middle of the plate, belt high.
Yeah, but you could run into what the situation was with Adam Hill. See, Adam Hill had a very similar start on Saturday like he had in the regional round, where he was effectively wild for a little bit, but couldn't find enough of the plate through his 4 innings plus a couple of batters to be able to get any kind of consistency and keep people off the base paths. I know that he kept them in both ball games because the deficit and the hole that he put them in was a surmountable deficit.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is you need to be able to get length out of your starting pitching. And we've seen it time and time again across all these regionals and super regionals. The teams that get their starting pitchers deep and don't use pitching until, again, a decisive game or something of this nature where they're having to play for all the marbles.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to do that and conserve pitching as much as possible, that is how you win these games.
And the only team that has refuted your statement is Duke. Because Duke is stronger when they go to their bullpen when they have the starters in the game.
Well, you go back to the other night, and Hill threw 87 pitches in 4 innings. That's a lot of work in 4 innings, but 87 pitches is a pretty good number. Demurius threw 59 pitches in that game. But
I'm surprised that they went with him
back.
I'm surprised they threw him as long as they did on that first night. I really am. Because, again, I thought it would preclude him from throwing today, just having thrown all those pitches on Saturday night. But apparently they've had him run out there to make it happen, just because, again, it's all hands on deck. But at the same time, it's weird. And the other thing too that you think about from this standpoint, and again, I know that this is a lot to get into from their perspective, but the people who got drafted, the teams are watching the way that these guys get managed during the postseason, and it can affect you from the standpoint of, in the reverse spot of recruiting, how a head coach manages getting guys out and putting them out for their pitching staff. You can see draft position. You could see those types of things affect a guy's professional opportunities. And that's a way that some of these programs can recruit against guys, because if you have a head coach who, quote unquote, abuses a guy or throws him out there too soon off of a long outing, that turns it into an adverse situation for you in recruiting.
Well, when our pal Ron Morris was writing for the State, and Pro will remember this, he was a pitch counter.
Oh, yeah?
And he and Ray Tanner had some moments over pitch counts and overworking pitchers. There were some games when Ray was coaching at South Carolina where he'd have starters go very deep and pretty high pitch counts.
Well,
and Ron Morris
pitches.
And Ron Morris would write articles about that. That kind of chafed Ray a little bit. And but you're right, they are watching these things.
And Graham Lawson will pitch the second inning for South Carolina. It is a final also in Lubbock. It'll be Texas Tech going to Omaha over Duke 6-2.
Quick recruiting note in state. Coach Stuart Young at Saluda notifying us his linebacker Raekwon Hartley tonight has committed to Middle Tennessee State.
We'll come back. We'll hear from the champion of the FedEx St. Jude, Dustin Johnson. He'll try to become the first person to go back-to-back, win the tournament before the U.S. Open, and possibly win at Shinnecock Hills. It'd be his second Open in 3 years.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
I'm just thankful of one thing. If the Gamecocks don't make it to Omaha, guess what else? The Vanderbilt Whistler isn't there either.
True that.
Holy God, I swear, there's nothing more annoying that I've ever. I used to be annoyed by very just, trivial things, but that takes the cake for me.
Well, I mean,
grind it out.
Schools all over the country have their super fans. There's Mr. Ooh at South Carolina for so many years. He was beloved, but I imagine visiting fans tired of him. Now at the regional in Greenville, North Carolina, there was a USC fan there, a female with leather lungs, and she was screaming at the top of those lungs throughout the game. And I mean, it was.
How was her stamina by the end of the weekend?
She was right. Well, they were winning, so she got stronger as the weekend progressed. So I mean, everybody's got that person in a ball game that can be annoying like that. But the Whistler is particularly, even if you're watching it on television, as I was watching some of that series over the weekend, it's just flat out annoying.
800-956-7266. Let's go to Robert, who's from Chesterfield. Robert, you're on Sports Talk. How are you?
Hey, how's it going? I enjoy your program. I was just throwing my little 2 cents worth in, but it looks like they should have pulled Molesky or whatever. I can't pronounce his name.
Majinski, yeah.
Majinski. They should have pulled him way before they got 5 runs. I mean, I think through the year, it looks like to me they're a little slow to pull these pitchers. I just wanted to get your opinion on that. And like I said, I enjoy the show.
Keep in mind, he had a defensive breakdown behind him. That didn't help. So, some of the damage is not all on him. He did give up a home run. The home run, I mean, when you think about it theoretically, the home run still would have happened because they would not have been out of the inning.
Yeah, this was the inning. Walk, single, throwing error, single, strikeout, homer, ground out, single, fly out. So, I mean, the big blow notwithstanding, the singles were hard hit balls. Let's be real there. They were hard hit balls, and the walk didn't help him. You had a ground ball that should have gotten you the first out of the inning. Maybe that changes the complexion. I'm not sure, but at the same time, if you get the ground down and you get the strikeout, you have 2 outs. Maybe Shady doesn't hit the home run. I don't know. The inning completely changes its complexion in my mind.
Well, and Lawson's in a bit of a pickle now in the bottom of the second. It's second and third with 1 out for the Razorbacks. They got runners on with a single, then after an out, a walk, and then we just had a wild pitch. So it's starting to come a little bit unglued.
Well, that's what I was saying about Arkansas. You make a mistake, they make you bleed.
Yeah.
And that error just opened the door for them. Suppose that error becomes a double play.
You got to hope from the Gamecock standpoint, and this could turn this way. It doesn't become a Vanderbilt Clemson finale where it just got totally out of hand and they just got hammered. What was that final?
19-6.
Yeah. And this could very well head in that direction the way
19-6 or 19-3, something like that.
I thought it was 3.
Yes, 19-3. Right.
This could very well head in that direction if they don't stop this little rally that Arkansas has got going here in the second. It could get out of hand.
They could
really
only
quick.
beat you once though. 19-6, 1-0.
Yeah, but it's the end of the season.
Yeah. Well, and
it's the end of the season.
Well, here's the other.
I mean, it hurts more.
Here's the other part of this, and Robert does have a point. The one thing, though, he has done, and I think this is more done for the future of the program and more done for the confidence, is when he's stuck with guys, it's usually been the young guys, the Majinskis, the Logan Chapmans. Those guys need to learn how to pitch out of trouble. And I think that's something that's more done for their maturity than necessarily a particular game situation. But in this particular situation here, with your backs against the wall, all hands on deck, you got to change the complexion of the game there. A
couple of football things to talk about. Former Clemson quarterback Hunter Johnson's going to Northwestern. And Myrtle Beach is in line to get a bowl game in 2020. Conway at Coastal Carolina, we say Myrtle Beach for the general geography, but we're looking at a Sun Belt arrangement here, a Sun Belt team possibly.
Sun Belt and or MAC and or Conference USA is the tie-in there. It wouldn't necessarily be Coastal Carolina because I believe that you are precluded from playing a bowl game in your home stadium. believe that is the case. So it's not like Coastal Carolina will face a bowl situation in their home stadium. But again, it's more about that tourism.
Well, maybe they can get a waiver on that. And I would think if you do have a bowl there, you would think the bowl tie-in and whoever is sponsoring the bowl would add some sweetener to Coastal Carolina's football stadium.
I mean, that's all great for the Grand Strand, Myrtle Beach, Coastal, if they can pull it off. And if it happens, that's great. But here's my fear. Number one, we're just further diluting the bowl games to the point now you're going to have, we have 6 and 6 teams playing now, but you're going to maybe have to go with losing teams to try to fill some of these bowl slots.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're talking about having a bowl game where it's going to be a half-empty stadium and hardly viewed on television.
How does that affect the way there's so many of those already? What's one more?
That's what my point is. I mean, why do you? If you're the NCAA has no control over this apparently, but why would college football in general? I mean, just because you're a coach and you can claim I went to this bowl game, that bowl game, that doesn't make for an impressive resume.
I think when you have
it incentivizes in the contract, it's incentive in the contract.
Well, I know it looks good on paper, but I mean, we laugh at you when you point to the fact that I went to the Poulan Weed Eater Bowl with a 6 and 6 team and got beaten, finished 6 and 7, but I went to a bowl game. There are bowl games, and then there are just pure December exhibition games,
also,
and that I'd hate to see that in Conway where you bring in. Of course, they play in the Sun Belt, so some Sun Belt teams will already play in Conway maybe during the regular season. But let's say you bring in Louisiana Monroe, their Sun Belt.
Yes.
Yeah. So say you bring in Louisiana Monroe to play. Give me a team that could.
Miami of Ohio if it was the MAC, Miami Redhawks.
That's a good one. I mean, in December,
you'll get a lot of people from Miami of Ohio down there to go to.
There'll be more people at the Touchstone Energy North-South game.
I don't know. Those Ohio people love going down to the South Carolina coast now because it's all one straight shot down 77.
Here's the thing I worry about.
Yeah.
People get in their mind coastal. Okay. The beach, the sun. You ever thought about the strange weather that happens in Conway in December?
Yeah.
They could have a bowl there and say, hey, it's great. It's Conway. It is 30-something degrees.
It was just this past year. It was not great weather, but a lot of times in December, it's very nice weather.
Well, it's weird. And again, this is all done from the guise of tourism. I mean, they just got the basketball tournament down there off of the success of last year's Puerto Rico tip-off that moved there. You were there for that. You can speak to how well it was handled. Was it handled well?
It was handled well. It was poorly attended, but it was handled well. But I mean, ESPN, which will probably own this bowl game, they could care less if anybody shows up. An empty stadium doesn't bother them.
It's a big advertising for Myrtle Beach is what it is.
But ESPN is the one that is financing this whole thing, and they just want something to televise. And they don't care if you're at the ball game or not, even though it looks bad on television.
Bowl game programming is better than watching Bomani Jones and Pablo Torre argue over whether LeBron James is going to go to Team A or Team B.
How about this? 7-0 Arkansas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Going to the third. I imagine this game's moved over now to where? ESPN 2. If anybody's gone with it. Gamecock fans have probably gone somewhere else by now.
They're probably going to the Auburn Florida game if they're watching baseball. I think if my calculations are close, if you have 43 bowl games, that means between 60 and 65% of Division I schools have a chance.
Eddie Fogel was right. Eddie Fogel used to say it's a lot easier to get to a bowl game. This is before they expanded it further.
Right.
A lot easier to get to a bowl game than to the NCAA tournament.
So you're telling me I've had the last Drover steak that has been paid for by the folks at South Carolina Radio Network for the year?
You only get one a year. You had yours in basketball. You had it unusually in basketball season.
So you're telling me we're not getting another one is what you're telling me?
Doesn't look that way.
Unless you go and get it on yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe you can have them ship it to you. Yeah.
I'm having that done. We'll make that happen.
Yes.
Keep tabs on it at SportsTalkSC.com and also on our Twitter at SportsTalkSC. We'll have the full wrap-up for you tomorrow when we rejoin you at 6 o'clock.